Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Gananaham tva Ganapatigum Havamahe Kavim Kavinamupamatravattamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Anas Srinvanyotivistredasadanam Prano Devi Saraswati Vajebhirvajinivati Dhinama Vitrayavatu Ganeshaya Namaha Saraswatyai Namaha Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Sumukascha Ekadantascha Kapilo Gajakarnakaha Lambodharascha Vikato Vignarajo Vinayakaha Dhumaketur Ganadhyakshaha Kalachandro Gajananaha Vakratundaha Surpakarno Herambaha Skandapurvajaha Shuklambaradharam Vishnum Sativarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye Yasya Viradavaksradhya Parishadhya Parasatam Vignam Nignanti Tatatam Vishvaksenam Tamasraye Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheswara Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Namo Brahmadibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartrubhyo Vamsa Rishibhyo Mahadbhyo Namo Gurubhyaha. Sarvopaplava Rahitaha Prajnana Ganaha Pratyagastho Brahmaivaham Asmi. Om Narayanam Padmabhavam Vasishtam Satyam Cha Putra Parasaram Cha Vyasam Sukam Gaudapadam Mahantam Govinda Yogindra Matasya Sishyam Sri Chinmayananda Matasya Padmapadam Cha Hastamalakam Cha Sishyam Tam Totakam Vartikakara Manyanas Mad Gurun Santata Manatosmi Sruti Smruti Purananamalayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Iswaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyoma Vadvyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha. Swami Grace and Bhagavad Pada's Anugraham and Ashirvadangal. Let us continue where we left off yesterday. And yesterday we were in Slokam 14. Jatilo Mundi Lunchita Kesaha Kashayambara Bahukrita Veshaha Pasyanna Picha Na Pasyati Mudho Yudara Nimittam Bahukrita Veshaha. Just going over that meaning again to make sure that's clear for everyone. One ascetic with matted locks, one with shaven head, one with hairs pulled out one by one, and another parading in his ochre robes. These are all fools who, though seeing, do not really see. They don't see the reality. Indeed, these different disguises are only for their belly's sake. That's the meaning of that. And going to Slokam number 15. Slokam 14 was Jatilo Mundi was given by Totakacharya. Now Hastamalakar gives you the next slokam, which is Angam Galitam Palitam Mundam Dasana Vihinam Jatam Tundam Vruddho Yati Gruhitva Dandam Tadapina Munchati Asa Pindam. Angam Galitam Palitam Mundam Dasana Vihinam Jatam Tundam Vruddho Yati Gruhitva Dandam Tadapina Munchati Asa Pindam. Padangal are Angam Galitam Palitam Mundam Dasana Vihinam Jatam Tundam Vruddha Yati Grihitva Dandam Tad Api Na Munchati Asa Pindam. Angam Galitam Mundam Palitam Tundam Jatam Dasana Vihinam. Like that meaning is. So going through Angam means body. And Galitam means it becomes weak. It's worn out. It's used up. Mundam means the hair, the head. Palitam, the hair on the head. Palitam has turned grey. And Tundam, the mouth. Jatam has become Dasana Vihinam. Dasana means teeth. Vihinam means missing. So the mouth has got basically become toothless. And Vriddhaha, in this stage, the old man, Yati, he moves about like this. And how does he move? Dandam Grihitva. Dandam means the cane. And Grihitva, grabbing, holding on to. And he moves about. Tadapi, even then, na munchati, does not leave. Asha Pindam, the bundle of desires. The body has become worn out. The head has turned grey. The mouth has become toothless. And the old man moves about leaning on his cane. Even then, he does not leave his bundle of desires. This is what Hasta Malakar talks. Hasta Malakar was another primary disciples among the four primary disciples of Bhagavad Padar, and we'll cover about Hasta Malakar in the next class. Let's also take up a few more slokam. And slokam number 16, which begins with Agre Vagnihi Prishte Bhanuhu, that slokam. And that is taught to us by Subodha. He says, Agre Vagnihi Prishte Bhanuhu Ratrau Chubuka Samarpita Januhu Karatala Bikshaha Tarutala Vasaha Tadapina Munchati Asha Pashaha Agre Vagnihi Prishte Bhanuhu Ratrau Chubuka Samarpita Januhu Karatala Bikshaha Tarutala Vasaha Tadapina Munchati Asha Pashaha. The previous slokam, the one we just covered, Andam Galitam and all that, that talks about a person as a householder. He's become old and still does not give us his desire. This slokam talks about a sannyasi, a renunciant, and what happens to him and what does he do, what happens to his desires, okay, has he given it up? That's what this is talking about. And Agre, the padangal are Agre Vagnihi Prishte Bhanuhu Ratrau Chubuka Samarpita Januhu Kara Tala Bikshaha Taru Tala Vasaha Tadu Api Na Munchati Asha Pashaha. Agre is in front. Vagnihi, fire. So the fire is in front of him. That means, and let's finish the slokam and then we'll cover the meaning. Padang by padang with padang. Prishte means in the back. At the back, Bhanuhu, the sun. Ratrau, at night time. Chubuka, Samarpita, Januhu. Chubuka means chin. And Januhu means our knees. And Samarpita, where he is sitting with his legs bent and with his knees touching the chin. That is what he does at night time. Kara Tala Bikshaha. Tala, we know means tala is like a leaf, right? Kara Tala, when the hand itself, when you cup it and it becomes when you scoop both your palms, to keep it and then kind of scoop it in order to receive food, or even sometimes we even can take water in it, right? So that portion, Kara Tala Bikshaha, he is now taking alms and he doesn't use a plate or anything like that. With his own hand becomes like a leaf. He cups it like that. That's how he collects his food in alms. Taru Tala Vasaha. Taru means tree. Tala means, under Taru Tala, under the leaf, under the shade of a tree. Vasaha, that's where he lives, under the shelter of a tree. So who lives like this? that Agre Vagnihi, sannyasi, a renunciant who has taken up renunciation, what does he do? At night time, it becomes, because he doesn't have a proper house and all that, right? It becomes cold. So he sits in front of a fire. So because he sits in front of a fire, the fire is in front of him. Now, the same person during the daytime, when the sun is shining and it's very hot, normally you don't face the sun. You got the sun on your back, right? And that is what Prishte Bhanuhu. Bhanuhu means sun. And what happens at night time? At night time, it's a little bit chilly. Even he's got a fire in front of him. How does he sit? He sits with his knees bent and touching the chin, right? That's how you can picture the scene. And for eating, what does he do? Whatever he goes from house to house and extends his hand, the hands cupped, the palms are cupped like a karatala, and Bhikshaha, he takes Bhiksha like that. And Tarutala Vasaha, at night time he doesn't have a house and all that, goes and sleeps under the shelter of a tree. So a renunciant like this, a person who lives like this, what happens to him? Tadapi, even then, na munchati, does not leave asha pashaha. Pasha means a noose that binds you. Asha means desires. So a noose of desires he does not leave. Even though he's taken up renunciation, he is still full of desires. That is what Subodha says. So it's very important to how the desires play a role, in our life. Agre Vagnihi Prishte Bhanuhu Ratrau Chubuk Samarpita Januhu Karatala Bhikshaha Tarutala Vasaha Tadapina Munchati Asa Pashaha. Going to the next one, Slokam number 17. And this is given to us by Vartikakara Uvacha. That Vartikakara is another disciple. All these names, they are in the prayer Slokam. Some of these disciples' names, you will see that in the prayer Slokam that we say in the beginning. And Vartikakara is another disciple. And what is he teaching us? Kurute Ganga Sagara Gamanam Vrata Paripalanam Atava Danam Jnana Vihinaha Sarvamatena Bhajati Na Muktim Janma Satena Kurute Ganga Sagara Gamanam Vrata Paripalanam Atava Danam Jnana Vihinaha Sarvamatena Bhajati Na Muktim Janma Satena. Padangal are Kurute Ganga Sagara Gamanam Vrata Paripalanam Athava Danam Jnana Vihinaha Sarvamatena Bhajati Na Muktim Janma Satena. And Bhaja Govindam, the call to do Bhaja Govindam is repeated again. It's very important. Why? Now, Ganga Sagara Gamanam, that means Ganga Sagara Gamanam. Where does Ganga meet the ocean? It's a very sacred place. Kshetradanam, as we call it, Natitirtham, right? And Kurute, you can do pilgrimage. You just pilgrimage to these places, very holy places. You do the pilgrimage. Kurute Ganga Sagara Gamanam. Not only that, Vrata Paripalanam. Vrata Paripalanam. Paripalanam means surrounded by groups of Vratam, discipline, various vows and austerities that you follow. That's a Paripalanam. Atava or Danam. He also engages in charity. So you may visit holy places, or you may be engaged in spiritual disciplines, or you may be engaged in charity, Danam, Kurute, all this. Now, but Jnana Vihinaha, Jnanam, knowledge, Vihinaha, missing, weak. That means without the knowledge, without the experience of Paramatma, without the experience of truth. That is that Jnanam, that is keeping oneself separate, as separate identity from Bhagavan. That is Ajnana. So, in that stage, if you are in that stage, regardless of whether you go to pilgrimages, engaged in charities, engaged in spiritual vows and disciplines, so many things you may do, but if you are Jnana Vihina, without the experience of Bhagavan, without the experience of selfless love, Sarva Matena, according to all schools of thought, we call them religion, whatever you want to call them, according to all schools of thought, muktim, the freedom, the release from the bondage of birth and death, na bhajati, does not gain. Janma satena, even in 100 life. Janma satena, sata means 100, janma means life, birth. Even if you take 100 births, if you do not have the experience of Bhagavan, Paramatma, all the things that you do will not give you relief or freedom from the cycle of birth and death. Therefore, do Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja, O Mudamate. That's what he says. Okay, that is the most important thing. More important than pilgrimages, more important than dhanam, more important than spiritual vows, whatever. Uttering the name of Bhagavan and keeping your mind at the lotus feet. And as Sukamaniva says, withdraw your mind from the world and place it at the lotus feet of the most enchanting Bhagavan. He says that. Known as Shama, he says. Kurute Ganga Sagara Gamanam Vrata Paripalanam Athava Dhanam Jnana Vihinaha Sarvamatena Bhajatina Muktim Janma Satena. Slokam number 18, which begins with beautiful slokam. We can apply that very easily to in our daily life and every moment actually. And that comes the next one. Okay, this one is by Nityananda. Sura Mandira Tarumula Nivasaha. That is the slokam. Sura Mandira Tarumula Nivasaha. Sayya Bhutalam Jinam Vasaha. Bhutalam Ajinam Vasaha. Sarva Parigraha Bhoga Tyagaha. Kasya Sukham Na Karoti Viragaha. Sura Mandira Tarumula Nivasaha. Sayya Bhutalam Ajinam Vasaha. Sarva Parigraha Bhoga Tyagaha. Kasya Sukham Na Karoti Viragaha. It's an opposite. So far, the various disciples pointed out the mistakes that we do, how we still hold on to desires, regardless of whether we become old or whether we take up sannyasam or whatever it is, we still hold on to our desires. And we do various disciplines, observing spiritual vow, vratams, Lakshmi Nombu, Vara Lakshmi Nombu, whatever we observe, or go to State Radhanangal, various temples we visit, or engage in charity, whatever we do, they're all really, so long as desires are there, they don't give you the result. Now this slokam talks exactly what happens when you give up the desire. Like Nityananda says, what happens, the opposite of it. If you do it the right way, then what is the result? That's what he's saying. The padangal are Sura Mandira Taru Mula Nivasaha. Sayya Bhutalam Ajinam Vasaha. Sarva Parigraha Bhoga Tyagaha. Kasya Sukham Na Karoti Viragaha. That's what he says. Sura Mandira Taru Mula Nivasaha. Sura Mandira Nivasaha. Sura means Devata, right? We know. And Mandira means temple, which means it's a divine places. Temples, they are Nivasaha, where living in the temples. If you go and stay in a temple calmly, finishing everything else, after doing a production and all, just sit in a corner, just by yourself, how nice it is, right? How beautiful it is. And Sura Mandira Nivasaha, Tarumula Nivasaha, or you can stay under the shade of some trees. And Sayya means sleeping, bed. And Bhutalam, and you can be right on top of the naked ground, or just a straight ground. There is nothing. You don't have bedsheets or you don't have any grass, or just lie down on the ground, on Mother Earth. That is Bhutalam. Bhutalam Sayya, sleeping on the ground, on Mother Earth. And Ajinam Vasaha. Ajinam means the cloth, the deer's skin. That means you're basically given up. You don't have desires. You got just dressed up on a simple thing like the deer's wearing a skin's deer cloth, as that. Sarva Parigraha. Sarva all. Parigraha. Parigraha means within, surrounded by. That is one meaning. Okay? But what are we surrounded by? So many possessions, right? We are always immersed in so many possessions, right? All the possessions that we have, that bogaha. We have all the possessions. You can list literally hundreds of them, if you take a paper and pencil. So many things we have, possess. We think we possess them for bogam, for enjoyment, right? And so many that so many of them. All those tyagaha, giving them up, renouncing them, literally through in mind, not only physically, but in mind, renouncing them. If somebody is like this, Suramandira Tarumula Nivasaha, Saya Bhutalam, Ajinam Vasaha, Sarva Parigraha, Bhogat Tyagaha. Somebody who's renouncing all the bohangal, okay, not attached to them. If they come, fine. If they don't come, that's also equally fine. Not disturbed. That does not mean you run away from them. You're not attached to them, okay? They don't matter to you. If somebody is like that, Kasya, whose Sukam, happiness, na karoti, does not bring viragaha, dispassion. Viragaha means without attachment. Just enjoy everything as an agent of Bhagavan, not as possessive enjoyment, but as an agent. Yes, the beautiful rose is there, enjoy it, but don't try to possess it. Beautiful sunrise is there, enjoy it. Beautiful, whatever Bhagavan has given you, take it as Bhagavan's gift, but don't be attached to it. Okay, don't dwell on that more than a moment. And so viragaha, one who has got this dispassionate or the right approach that the actual owner is Bhagavan only, and given to me all these things for me to enjoy, not in a possessive way, but as Bhagavan's property, I enjoy. And if you like that, then Kasya, who's like this, and which Kasya Sukham, which happiness Nakaroti does not happen to him, one who's like this. That means he will be completely happy, completely blissful. That's the meaning. Sura Mandira Taru Mula Nivasaha Saya Bhutalam Ajinam Vasaha Sarva Parigraha Bhogat Tyagaha Kasya Sukham Nakaroti Viragaha. Next slokam is Yogaratova Bhogaratova. That is slokam number 19. And this slokam is given to us taught to us by Anandagiri. Anandagiri. It's a very simple slokam to follow in one's life and realize the benefit of the truth of this teaching. Such a simple thing to follow. Bhaja Govindam, when you think about it, yes, I want to do Bhaja Govindam. How do I do it? Do I go to the puja room and do it? Or do I do it in the mornings and evenings, How do you do it? Or do you go to a bhajan session? How does one do Bhaja Govindam? That is what this talks about. So powerful and so simple. Yogaratova, Bhogaratova, Sangharatova, Sangha Vihinaha, Yasya Brahmani Ramate Chittam, Nandati, Nandati, Nandati Eva. Yogaratova, Bhogaratova, Sangharatova, Sangha Vihinaha, Yasya Brahmani Ramate Chittam, Nandati, Nandati, Nandati Eva. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudamate. Yoga Rataha, Yoga Rataha, Va. Bhoga Rataha, Va. Sangha Rataha, Va. Sangha Vihinaha, Yasya Brahmani Ramate Chittam, Nandati, Nandati, Nandati Eva. That's what he says. Yoga Rataha. Rataha means attached to. Rati means attached to, right? And Yoga Rataha, one who is engaged in yoga. You're attached to yoga, you like to do yoga, so you do yoga in a very, very disciplined manner. Or Bhoga Ratova. You may be attached to enjoyments, like most of us are. We want enjoyments, right? And worldly happiness, whatever you call it. How can I run away from worldly happiness? I'm living in the world. How can I completely negate everything? By here the teacher says you don't have to negate. Even if you are engaged in and attached to, involved in bhogam, in enjoyment, nice food, nice clothes, nice car, whatever you have, Bhoga Ratova, even if you're attached to enjoyments, Va means or, that's what it means, okay? Sangha Ratova, Sangha, we all want to get together, have dinner together, get company, and we talk about so many subjects. We want groups of people, we want to be with people and talk about with common interest, people of like-mindedness. Some people may talk about cinemas and movies, some people may talk about Bhagavad Gita or whatever, or music or whatever, doesn't matter, or sports, doesn't matter. Sangha Ratova, that means attached to, seeking, involved in companies of people, groups, Sangam. Sangaratova, okay? Because we talked about earlier from Acharya himself taught us, Satsangatte Nitsangatvam, right? Even if I don't have Satsangam, if I have just Jana Sangam, even if I'm involved in it, or that's what it means, Sangha Vihinaha. But I'm a person, who's not attracted to groups of people. I'm more interested in solitude. I'm more interested in keeping the company of Bhagavan. Or it doesn't matter. Whatever you do, Bhogaratova, Yogaratova, Bhogaratova, Sangaratova, Sangavihinaha, whatever you do, whatever your natural inclination is in life, whatever you do, Yasya, where Brahmani Ramate Chittam, your mind is thinking of and loving Brahman, Bhagavan. When your mind loves Bhagavan, doesn't matter if you're flying in an aircraft 36,000 feet above, or going in a cruise, or sitting in a restaurant, eating your food, it really doesn't matter. If your mind thinks of Bhagavan and loves him, Ramate, it must love him. It must love Bhagavan more than anything else you love, regardless of what you do. Then what happens? Nandati, Nandati, Nandati eva. Nandana, we say Nandana, Nandana, and also Nandana, Nandan. Nanda means once the meaning is child. Nandati, that word really means one who is happiness, bliss, happiness that is beyond this world. That is why a child is called Nanda, because it's Anandam, we say that, right? And this Nandati eva, Yasya Brahmani Ramate Chittam, who is thinking of and loving Bhagavan, Brahman, for him, regardless of what he does or what he does not do, there is only happiness, there is only bliss and bliss and bliss only. Nandati eva. Very easy to follow. Okay? Chittam Ramate. Think of Bhagavan. That is what Bhaja Govindam means. Think of him with love, not the way Kamsa thought of Krishna. It must be thought of with love. Love. Okay? And that, if you do that, wherever you are, whatever you do, you have only bliss, only happiness. Yoga Ratova, Bhoga Ratova, Sangha Ratova, Sangha Vihinaha, Yasya Brahmani Ramate Chittam, Nandati, Nandati, Nandati eva. This is what taught to us by Anandagiri. Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha, Harihi Om, Samastalokaha, Sukhino Bhavantu, Samastalokaha, Sukhino Bhavantu, Samastalokaha, Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om.